Good morning, those of you here in High Performer Lifestyle and watching on YouTube. I'm Jessica Perez-Beebe. I'm so happy to be here with you today. I'm here every morning, Monday through Friday, except the last week of every month when I take a flex, which means time off from doing things like this or meeting with clients. That's such a blessing that I've been able to plug into my schedule as a result of what I'm going to talk about today. And this message was like, it's so funny. Have you ever had this experience where, and I know you have, right? I know those of you watching have had this experience, but where you start to put your attention on something that you may never have put on before. In this case I have, but stay with me here, where you put your attention on something and then all of a sudden it's showing up everywhere. Other people are talking about it. It just seems to be like, wait, I just had this idea, right? And now I see it everywhere. That's the law of attraction, right? That's the power of where you put your focus, where you put your attention, you attract more. So it's super important to know this. Good morning, Catherine. New day with hearts. Yay. Awesome. I'm excited to see that from you. And I talked about yesterday on Instagram, this whole idea of, or this reality actually, of being in cycles, right? Life is cyclical and we're in different seasons at different times in our life. And how do you actually become the eye in the storm of life so that when things are seemingly not going your way or things are not moving as fast as you want? I'm just coming out of a cycle like that in my life, a season where this year was one of the toughest years for me, especially the last 6 months, right? Most people don't even know that except the people that are really close to me. And even the people that are really close to me are just like, oh my God, like a bad year for you, like just seems like normal. And I only share that with you because I know we all go through these things. And in my IG story yesterday, I was talking about how I'm able to do that because of all the mindset work that I've done, because of my leadership, because I'm really grounded, in believing for what is coming, right? And because I don't let the day-to-day stuff take me off of my commitments. We're going to talk about what it means to go all in today. And one of those things that doesn't typically show up as going all in, because you look at it as like what you do, right? Your to-do things, like I'm all in, I'm all committed, I'm going to the gym, and right? But the truth is, going all in also has to do with these things that I was just talking about how you become the eye of the storm in your life when things seem to be crumbling, right? Or things are not going the way that you want them to be. That's really a part of going all in, right? It's like, how do you stay grounded? My clients hear me say this all the time, and I always refer them back to the work in my Get Set method to have them reevaluate what's holding them back, like where's the mindset block. People always underestimate, because it seems to be a buzzword, like doing that mindset work, going back and saying, wait a minute, why do I keep hitting a wall in this area? Why emotionally do I let this pull me down? Why do I keep giving up here or there? Like, you got to go in and unpack what it is you actually believe about whatever it is that you're going through or that you're aspiring to. So in my example that I was just sharing a little bit of, my dog just said hello, because I've done so much of the deep mindset work and I continue to do it, like when I'm in the thick of things like that, it doesn't take me off course, right? It doesn't take me off course because I know that just because something is not happening right away, or just because something is not happening the way that I intended or thought that it was going to go or think that it should go with our limited capacity of thinking, right? God in the universe has that part on lock. But because that's happening, I'm so in my groundedness around my mindset and what I'm believing for and trusting, like I trust in my God, I trust in myself, right? Like that's one of the biggest benefits of doing the personal development work. And many of you have voted already on what's the big thing that, you know, if you were consistent in that, your life, you would have the edge in life that you want. You would have results in all areas of your life, not just fleeting results and not just in one area, right? And many of you have already acknowledged that it's being consistent in your mindset. It's being consistent in your personal development. And because I've made that front and center, and I suggest that you do too, especially if you have any hopes of leading people, of leading a company, of you know, even leading your family, right? All of these things matter. And so because that is front and center for me, and we're going to get to the going all in, we're not there yet, but because that is front and center for me, and I'm so grounded in it, and it's become second nature, right? My mindset evaluation, my rescripting, my 2-for-1, all of that work. And because I'm grounded in why I'm doing what I do, for instance, in my business, if things aren't looking the way I think that they're supposed to look, or not happening in the way that I think they're supposed to and when they're supposed to, because I'm so grounded in why I'm doing this, I don't get pulled off track and start to make it all about me and slide into victim mode, right? Now, doesn't mean that we don't have those moments. We all have those moments, but being able to interrupt those patterns, the thought patterns, the like pulling the cover over your head, right? And just like, you know, like tucking in and not reaching out for support and not voicing it, and not staying in the game, because we're able to interrupt those patterns quickly. We don't get stuck. Okay. So if you would like to be able to operate like that, let me know. And what I'll say is like my assistant coach who works closely with me was reaching out to me the other day, like, cause I was like, oh my God, coming out of the dark. Like it's all starting to get clear now. And she's like, Jessica, I cannot believe, like, I saw you go through so much this year, and like you are just so solid. And I'm not sharing that to brag, because that took work, right? That takes going all in on actually wanting to be a master of your mindset, of your domain, of the things that you actually can control, because there's so much that you can't. And being able to really tap into that and not let your emotions take you, like, you know, off the rails, and not let your mind get away from you. That, I'm telling you, when the shit hits the fan, that's when it's your savior, along with God, right? So that's what I'm going to talk about today. And what's so interesting, weaving it back to what I was saying earlier, is I had this as a part of, I plan out what I'm going to talk about in my lives. And I had this whole topic as a part of what we were going to talk about this week. And then my pastor started talking about it. And I was just like, oh my God, this is so perfect. So how do you go all in? Right? So the New Year's coming up, and many people, I always say, don't make New Year's resolutions just because of the way that they're done. And I have like tons of articles written on how to write resolutions, and how to set goals the right way and all of that, so that you're not failing. But like, when you're thinking of like a resolution, and you're resolving to do something, right? Or to give up something. Most people want to give up something, right? For the new year. I'm going to stop eating this, or I'm going to stop drinking, or, you know, I'm going, you know, whatever. A lot of people start going to work out as well. I used to own a fitness center for many years. So, but what they forget to do is actually replace, right? To fill the void of whatever they think they're giving up. Because that's one of the biggest reasons that people struggle, in my opinion, with succeeding at something. Are you guys with me? Those of you who are still watching live, that's why people tend to give up or don't go all the way, because they look at it, and I've had this experience myself personally, and I always have to remind myself and interrupt that thought pattern, right? Because so many thoughts that we have are just on autoplay. And if you don't check in with them and say, wait a minute, is that a thought that I actually want to choose right now? And do I even believe this to be true, or is it just a habit? Like, when we don't stop and do that, man, we can get pulled down a vicious cycle. So that's a thought pattern that I oftentimes have to check myself on, right? Like when I'm going into my training, like right now, I just set my coach and I just set a date for my pro debut. So I'm going into like serious training and dieting and all of that coming up here really soon. And that lights me up, but I have to right away start to do the work around the fact that I'm not giving up, that I'm not losing out, that I'm not sacrificing. Yes, we have to sacrifice things, but when you look at it as what you're losing as opposed to what you're gaining, you're always going to be like waiting for the other shoe to drop, right? In anything. So I want to talk about when you decide you're ready to go all in. A new year is coming, a new decade. If you watched my live yesterday, you know I was fired up about this. I said, identify what the hell you are sick of, what you're disgusted by, and use that to propel you for this next year and decide to go all in. So what does it look like to go all in? Well, first and foremost, whatever you decide that you're going to go all in with, like, you've got to get rid of every single excuse that you have for why it's going to be difficult or why it can't happen, right? Why it can't happen and why it's going to be difficult. Why you're different, right? Because everybody's got a reason, like every excuse in the book. Family, I'm too busy, I work a lot, my job is different than yours, you know, my career, my field, when I coach new entrepreneurs, one of the main things they always say is, well, I don't think that applies to my field. And almost always it applies to every field. So what are all the excuses? Okay, so here I'm going to give you actually some actions to do. Number one, decide what is the thing I'm ready to go all in on, and be specific. Don't be broad, right? Like, be specific. Go all in with one thing. If you're a new coach or a new entrepreneur and you don't even have one client yet, go all in with just getting a client. Like, I'm going until I get this client. Or go all in with a certain aspect of your business, or go all in with a certain relationship, or go all in with your fitness. Not just, I'm going to lose 10 pounds, right? Be audacious, be bigger, set that audacious goal. Like, with your fitness, right? I'm looking at Sandra's on here right now. Like, set that competition goal, set a race, like put a date on something, right? That's the first thing. And then get rid of all your excuses. So when you decide what you're going to go all in on, get out a piece of paper and write down every excuse that you can think of and all the excuses that you know you're going to come up with. And some more will come up along the way and you've got to catch them. Write all the excuses. And then one of the things I teach my clients is a 2-for-1 rule. For every excuse you have, every reason why it's going to be difficult or why it's going to be different for you or why you can't do it, for every single one, come up with 2 reasons to the contrary. So you've got to bust, you've got to pop a bubble, right, in that excuse. Does that make sense? So you've got to get rid of all your excuses. You've got to be armed against those excuses and ready. It's like you're going to battle, right? So you got to get ready. You got to put in the prep work. Okay. So number 1, get rid of all your excuses. And number 2, you've got to make the break. And this is really important. There is something that you are still connected to, still doing, might be secretive, right? It might be, something that is a crutch that you need to break from in order for you to really be all in, right? There's something that you have got to make the break from. It's kind of like putting your ass on the line, right? Make the break. So ask yourself, what do I need to make the break from? Right? So for instance, if you've got certain fitness goals, and you know that, you on the weekends you drink alcohol, or at night you have a glass of wine with dinner, and that leads to you often overeating a little bit and breaking your commitment, your diet, then the break for you is 100% break alcohol. I've done this myself, right? That's just an example. Or for instance, say it has something to do with a new business or your job. whatever it is that you're wanting to go all in with there, look at where you're still kind of tethered to something that you know is slowing you down or pulling you back. It might be something like, I don't know, like something that's not allowing you to go all in, right? Like maybe you have a job, right? I'm not telling you guys to go out and quit your job. You would know if that's right for you or not. I did that, but that was right for me at that time, right? Because I was going all in, and I knew there was no way I was going to fail, right? I was going to do what it took. So sometimes we have a crutch that we need to let go of. So whatever it is, you've got to make the break from something. Make the break. It might be a relationship. Perhaps you're in a relationship right now that you know is just for the meantime, but that kind of energy keeps you in wishy-washy gray area. And so perhaps I get to make that break so that I can go all in with my energy. And then the third thing is, once you make the break, whatever you're letting go of, whatever you're giving up, fill the void. Fill the void, because none of us as humans like to feel like we're giving up stuff, right? We don't like to feel like we're missing out, right? So fill the void with something else. And you're going to have to figure out what that is for you, right? For some people, like, you can fill the void with other healthy things like fitness, like going to the gym. You might fill the void with, if you're quitting a job or something like that, right? You might fill that void with another job, right? Something that you've been wanting to do. You might fill that void with, going all in on that business that you want to start. Like, you've got to fill the void with whatever you're replacing. Don't feel like you are missing out, right? Like, so often I see people like, oh, I gave up sugar, or I gave up this, and like, so I'm replacing it with this, or now I have a coffee addiction or whatever. And it's like, it's not about filling the void with something else that becomes your crutch, right? And I know that can seem like a little tricky, but it's about filling the void with things that really fill you up, with something that really lights you up, right? And look at the thing that you're breaking from, and see it for what it is. Yesterday we talked about, what are you disgusted by? So whatever that is, like 15, 20, 25 years ago when I quit smoking, I didn't look at it like, oh my God, I'm so miserable because I quit smoking. I'm jealous of her. She's smoking. No, I saw it for what it was. And I filled that void with like food, healthy food. Like, that's what turned me into getting healthier. I filled the void with exercise, and I started seeing that thing that I gave up, that I broke from. I started seeing it as like, thank God, like, I'm not poisoning my body, right? Thank God I'm no longer, like, I didn't see it as like I gave up something, I had to sacrifice it, right? Because that's going to always make you yearn for it and feel like you're missing out on something. Does that make sense? I know I'm all over a little bit with these types of examples, but it's really, really important that when you break from something, you don't yearn for it. That's a whole mindset shift. It's literally just a mindset shift. Because it's why in my piece, in my Get Set method, when I say you got to like give up, like whatever you're disgusted by, it's got to be something you're disgusted by. You're not just giving it up because society says you should, right? Or your doctor says. It's got to be something that you have decided, I am so disgusted by this. And it's not like the pros outweigh the cons. It's like, there's no benefit to this. That made it so easy for me to quit smoking. I just quit cold turkey. I had no problem at all, literally at all. I did a little bit of a support group, but like, I didn't have to stay away from people who were smoking or anything, because I shifted my mind around it. I didn't look at it as, this is so tempting. I looked at it as, thank God I'm not doing that anymore, right? You may need to do that with drinking. You may need to do that with a sugar addiction, right? You may need to do whatever it is. We all have our thing. But the point is, start to decide what you're going to break free from, because that's weight and baggage that you don't want to take into your new year, that you're going all in on something. Does that make sense? Okay, tag someone in the group that this could support. And if you haven't filled out taken the what the heck is that? It's not even a survey. It's just a poll. If you haven't answered the one question, it's on a pinned post. It's on a pinned post, okay? So check it out on here. Answer that. I'm going to be making some changes in this group, right? So I'm looking for engagement in order for me to continue to go live in this specific group, okay? So tell me what it is that you want so that when I come here at 6:45, you're here to receive the message. All right, guys, have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow morning, 6:45 live.